Welcome to a deep dive into what was an incredibly volatile and, well, fast-moving conflict. Today, we're dissecting the Israel-Iran War of June 2025. You've crusted us with a stack of critical sources, and our mission really is to cut through the noise,
Hmm.
extract the most important nuggets, and give you a shortcut to truly understanding what went down, why it matters, and, what the ripple effects could be for the entire region.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover there.
Absolutely. So get ready to uncover some, I think, surprising facts and gain a truly well-informed perspective on this complex topic. Okay, so let's unpack this. I think grounding ourselves in the timeline first makes sense because it really sets the stage for how quickly everything escalated.
It really does.
We start on June 13th. What exactly set this whole chain of events in motion?
Well, what's truly fascinating here, maybe unprecedented at scale, is how Israel initiated Operation Rising Lion. This wasn't just, a single retaliatory strike. The sources describe a highly coordinated effort.
Coordinated how?
We saw simultaneous airstrikes and even covert Mossad drone sabotage, specifically targeting Iran's nuclear and missile infrastructure.
Ah,
And that was across multiple provinces. So the precision and breadth of that initial assault, it really signaled a significant shift.
right. And given that kind of comprehensive opening salvo, it's maybe not surprising that Iran's response was direct and impactful just 6 days later.
Exactly.
This is where the civilian impact immediately became clear, isn't it?
Absolutely. On June 19th, Iran fired at least one Sea missile. Now, a Sea missile, it's significant because it's a solid propellant, medium-range ballistic missile,
Right, more advanced.
known for its rapid launch capability, mobility.
Hmm.
It makes it a potentially harder to intercept threat than some of their, older arsenal. And unfortunately, it struck Beersheba's Soroka Hospital,
Oh, yeah.
led to around 50 injuries,
Yeah.
and forced a full evacuation due to fears of a chemical leak. This particular targeting of a civilian hospital immediately escalated the humanitarian dimension of the conflict.
That strike on a civilian target, that must have shifted the global reaction significantly, paving the way for further involvement, wouldn't you say?
So, yeah.
Because by June 22nd, another major player definitely entered the scene. What kind of intervention did we see there?
Yeah, this is where we see global powers feeling, well, compelled to step in. The U.S. launched Operation Midnight Hammer, utilizing very specific assets.
Hmm.
B-2 bombers for
Yeah.
their stealth, their deep penetration capabilities,
Hmm.
and cruiser-launched Tomahawks for, precision from a distance.
And the targets.
Crucial Iranian nuclear facilities, places like Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan. Now, while Iran did dispute the severity of the damage, the very act of the U.S. using these high-value strategic assets against Iran's core nuclear sites, well, it was a powerful signal of intent.
Mm. That U.S. intervention certainly didn't go unanswered by Tehran, did it?
No, it didn't.
What was Iran's immediate countermove, and what did that signal about the widening geographic scope of this conflict?
Precisely. Just a day later, June 23rd, Iran struck Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar
In Qatar. Wow.
with 6 missiles. Now, all were successfully intercepted, but the choice of target is critical.
Al Udeid being a major U.S. base.
Exactly, a major U.S. air base in the region. This move clearly demonstrated Iran's willingness to directly challenge U.S. presence and influence. It really expanded the conflict beyond the immediate Israel-Iran dynamic, potentially drawing in other regional actors.
So while missiles were flying and, global powers were getting involved, something else was brewing. On the political front,
Chris.
something that to me has massive global repercussions far beyond the immediate conflict zone. Can you explain the significance of the Strait of Hormuz situation?
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, between June 22nd and 23rd, the Iranian parliament voted to close the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this is pending council approval, but still
Huge implications.
huge. What's often overlooked here isn't just the immediate, say, price hike in oil, but how this move forces a rapid reevaluation of global energy security strategies. It could potentially accelerate investments in alternative energy sources, maybe fundamentally alter long-standing geopolitical alliances dependent on those oil flows.
And create a huge economic tremor.
Exactly, a far-reaching economic tremor. This isn't just a regional threat, it's a direct challenge to, well, a cornerstone of global commerce.
Okay, now, fast forward to the very latest updates we have from June 23rd and 24th. We start hearing about a potential ceasefire. What does this all mean for the immediate future, especially given how quickly everything has unfolded?
Well, there was the declaration by former U.S. President Trump on June 23rd, 24th. It announced a 12-day ceasefire, set to start within 6 hours and last at least 12 hours.
Okay.
Now, while both Israel and Iran reportedly accepted it, neither side actually confirmed it publicly.
That's key. No public confirmation.
Right. And critically, missile activity apparently continued around the declared start time. So this points to an incredibly fragile truce, perhaps more uh, aspirational than firmly established. It really highlights the deeply distrustful environment.
That lack of public confirmation, the continued activity, it's striking. It sounds like there are also very different narratives emerging on who won or what the terms of this ceasefire actually are.
Oh, definitely.
Some analyses might suggest that the claimed victory by Israel, especially given that continued missile activity, was maybe more a political statement than a reflection of reality. Did your sources offer any counter-arguments to Israel's claim?
You've hit on a crucial point there. Israel indeed claimed it achieved all its war objectives, specifically neutralizing threats to its nuclear and missile capabilities.
Okay, that's their public stance.
That's their public stance. Conversely, Iran's foreign ministry, they stressed geopolitical warnings, declaring U.S. involvement very dangerous, and indicating they'd only abide by the truce after an Israeli withdrawal.
So completely conflicting positions.
Clearly conflicting. Designed to save face internally, project strength externally. The sources certainly reveal that the reality on the ground was, well, far more ambiguous than either side's public declaration suggested.
Right.
Especially with that continued missile fire you mentioned.
Right. Beyond the political claims and strategic maneuvering, what was the actual human cost? And the military cost of these rapid developments? Those casualty figures we saw were quite sobering.
They absolutely are. The casualty estimates are stark. Approximately 950 killed in Iran, compared to around 24 in Israel.
A huge disparity.
It is. And this disparity, while obviously tragic for everyone involved, it does reflect the effectiveness of Israel's multi-layered missile defense systems, like Iron Dome and others. We also saw those immediate civilian impacts, like the Soroka hospital strike we talked about, and reports of thousands of civilians fleeing Tehran following bombardment warnings. That leads to internal displacement, shortages. Regionally, British nationals began evacuating from Israel and Qatar, though thankfully flights seem to have reopened after those initial disruptions. It really underscores the devastating human cost, even in such a rapid conflict.
It certainly does. So looking at the bigger chessboard now, what are the strategic considerations moving forward? What are the key players signaling for the next phase, especially with such a tenuous truce in place?
Well, from Israel's perspective, the plan seems to be halting their campaign, pending Iranian de-escalation. But they've unequivocally warned they may resume if nuclear ambitions continue. That signals a very clear red line for them.
Okay. And the U.S.?
The U.S. seeks to de-escalate hostilities, naturally, but they've left open the possibility of follow-on pressure depending on diplomatic results. So their involvement could easily pivot again.
Right, not necessarily stepping back completely.
Not necessarily. And, as we discussed, Iran's parliament pushing to shut the Strait of Hormuz. That remains a significant and, frankly, active geopolitical escalation tactic. It constantly intensifies global concerns about energy markets and reminds everyone of the leverage they potentially hold.
This deep dive has truly shown us how quickly events can unfold and just how interconnected global politics and economies really are.
It's complex.
As we look at the outlook, what should we as listeners be watching most closely in the coming days and weeks? What are the biggest uncertainties that remain?
I'd say the ceasefire durability is paramount, number one. With no formal confirmation from either Iran or Israel, this truce is just incredibly fragile. Continued readiness on both sides could easily lead to renewed conflict. Feels like a truce by, temporary agreement, not by a firm handshake.
Yeah, very unstable.
Then there are the nuclear negotiations. Israel seeks a full halt to enrichment. Iran might engage in interim talks, but that deep historical distrust. It clouds the prospect significantly. The biggest hurdles here aren't just technical. They're about fundamental shifts in strategic intent, which are hard to achieve.
Okay, so ceasefire fragility, nuclear talks, anything else?
Finally, the global watch points. The potential closure of the strait disrupting oil flows, the economic fallout from that would be immense, truly global. We also need to watch Middle East allies like Qatar and the UAE who remain on high alert. And then there's the mounting global diplomatic pressure, which is really a complex web of competing interests and influences trying to navigate this.
What a lot to take in, and really a testament to how quickly a situation can evolve and demand our attention. This deep dive has highlighted the rapid escalation, the varied impacts, and the delicate balance of power at play. For you listening, this means understanding not just the headlines, but the crucial underlying details that truly shape these global events. As you reflect on all this, consider maybe this provocative thought. In a conflict marked by such swift action and these uncertain truces, how might the absence of formal, public confirmation of an agreement, how might that itself become a powerful tool in future negotiations? Or, conversely, could it be a silent trigger for renewed conflict down the line? It's a complex web, and there's always more to learn.